Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What's up, Rams fans? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports, talking all things your Los Angeles Rams. The NFL draft is, I think we are at exactly a month away, if not mistaken. As of this recording, March 24th, I believe April 24th is the first round on the clock for the Titans of the first round pick, first overall pick.
That's right.
My focus is just on the teams we cover, so I don't even pay attention to that nonsense. But there is a reason to pay attention, which we'll get to in just a second. Plus, we're going to talk some first-round cornerbacks. That seems to be the position that most of the mocks have the Rams taking. Plus, a lot of fans kind of want to see the Rams go that direction, so we'll talk that. But first and foremost, my man Skinny T, fresh new haircut, right? Just last week, looking good. How we doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I got it right before we headed up to Cambria. So yeah, it's pretty recent. Looking fresh though. That's for sure. Yeah, doing good. You know, like this is the new sports calendar. It kind of starts, I feel like, now-ish around this time. F1 is back. I was watching
You're a big
my
F1
lady,
guy, right?
Yeah, I started watching it a few years ago. Ferrari team, both cars got DQ'd from Sunday's race, so that was unfortunate. They didn't have a great race, but they had a good race, and both got DQ'd. But the Lady Gophers, just to update all you people that aren't paying attention to women's Frozen 4, they got bounced. And then but it was a very exciting game between Ohio State and Wisconsin. Just go watch the third period of that game. Great time, really fun.
Wisconsin with the natty knocking out. They tied it on a penalty shot, an unbelievable penalty shot, by the way, and then ended up winning it for win the natty. So I showed my daughter that. You sent it to me, and I showed it to her, and she just gets all fired up seeing like girls play. It's really cool. Cool. I've tried so hard. She's only 4, turning 5 soon, but I've tried so hard to get her like into sports. Obviously, like I'm never going to force her to do anything, but obviously want to have a little influence. Like I'm a sports guy. We run a sports, like that's our job. So I'm like, I want her to like get into sports, and she doesn't like hate it, but she just like does not get into it. And like after a while, I was like, I wonder if there's like I noticed that she would basically a lot of times be like, oh, that's boy stuff, and she's like a big girly girl, loves girls. So one time I put on like a USC UCLA women's basketball game, the great, Juju Watkins. So, and she was like, loved it because she was like, oh, there's girls playing. And so now every time there's like a girl sport on, she actually like enjoys it. She still doesn't watch for like the whole time, but I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess we're going to a lot of women's sporting events here soon in the Dyrett household.
Well, we should hit up that Angel City game. They're doing a Rams tie-in, I think, sometime in the future. Angel City soccer team here in Los Angeles.
That's right. So yeah, they have a Rams night there coming up soon. So I'm still going to take her to a Kings game. I'm going to talk to you about that actually before the season ends. I'm try to go to the Kings Avs game coming up here. It's in April. And I want to bring her. And I know you're now a big hockey fan. So
I'm trying to get back to it. Like I don't know what happened. Sometime in the 90s, I just stopped paying attention and lost all interest. And I want to pick a smart team. And in order to do that, you have to watch a whole bunch of hockey and pay attention. So I'm watching more. I'm getting back into it. I'm paying attention.
What's funny is right after Four Nations is when I kind of pushed to get into it. And then right after that, you were like out of nowhere. Well, I think it's because the Avs were playing them. You're like, I kind of like this St. Louis team. I'm kind of getting into the St. Louis team. Since that, they've literally won like 12 of their next 13 games and are in the playoffs now. Like they're the hottest team in hockey since you had said that. So maybe that is your team.
Hey, Rams connection, Midwest connection, everything's kind of line up. Good jerseys too. Like for hockey specifically, you have to have good jerseys to get me in the door.
Yeah, I still think you should just be a Kings fan though.
I should
really have a team.
It would be a good LA team to root for. That's for sure.
And they're hot too. They've won like I think 8 of their last 10. We cover them now on LAFB Network.
There was a near goalie fight, which is always it's just the best.
Yeah, Darcy Kemper almost threw down gloves last night. I don't know why the refs stopped it. The refs never stopped fight, but I guess a goalie fight and it was too far.
Like who knows? Goalies don't get enough love.
I know.
I played goalie when I was a kid.
Always
an afterthought.
Hardest position in sports, I think. So, I'll just do this now. Quickly get out of the way. Show is always brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Hopefully, you've been winning some money on March Madness. Bet Online's got all the great money lines. You can parlay, same game parlays if you want to stick to one single game, or you can obviously stack all those games within there. I had a lot of parlays over the first, 32 games or however many it was, and I only won one of them. And it was always like one team that ruined it, Skinny. It's the worst feeling when you're betting, when you have like a 5, 6, or 7 team parlay and you get everything right but that one team. And I remember my biggest one had a pretty big payout for little earnings because, you're doing a 17 parlay. And my only one wrong was like the only Cinderella win of the tournament, which was Clemson losing to McNeese State. So that was unfortunate. I was happy for them, though. I think we talked about a lot this episode. But anyway, all that can be done at BetOnline. You still got Sweet 16 and beyond, as we mentioned. Kings hockey, Dodgers are almost back. Lakers are in full force, plus the Clippers pushing for the playoffs. Or you can just bet on the NFL draft. They got NFL draft props, and all that can be done at betonline.ag, where the game starts. So let's first start with this, getting into Rams talk now. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us just catch up a little bit in the first 5 minutes, as we like to do. Today, Miami's Pro Day down in the Sunshine State. All 32 teams in attendance for Pro Day. Obviously, other players to see as well, but most notably, the potential number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward. So all 32 teams, meaning the Los Angeles Rams, were in attendance down in Coral Gables. Your thoughts on this?
Well, initially, the Rams don't send people out. That's my initial thought. They don't go to the combine. You don't hear a lot of chatter about them going to pro days. You don't hear a lot about, top 30 visits, stuff like that. Comes out occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest news, is that they're there and in person checking this out. And, everybody is going to just throw this idea under the bus that they would be interested in trading up for a quarterback. But is it that wrong? Is it that wrong to be this right to go after a quarterback in this time frame where Matthew Stafford is year to year? They've said that publicly as well. That's out there.
Yeah.
So it can't be considered the craziest thing. Sean McVay wasn't a part of it, but Les Snead, not that long ago, traded up for Jared Goff, and that worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's not outside the realm. Don't discount it.
People. Yeah, it's I don't know what to go from 26 to 1, which seems like where Cam Ward is going to be the first overall pick, and it seems like there was chatter of Tennessee taking calls about trading out of that. It seems now pretty cemented that they will stay and pick, but obviously we're still a month away. A lot of things can happen. But I think there's 2 things here. Hey, you're just doing your due diligence. This is a potential franchise quarterback. So you don't want to just ignore it. Like, crazier things can happen in the draft, or if you really believe like, hey, this is a guy that can, once Stafford hangs it up, like he's taking the keys, like who cares what the cost if we believe there's enough value there for the next decade? Do you really care if you gave up 3 firsts if you got your franchise guy for 10 to 15 years later? Probably not. Now, if you're bad, even with those, then that changes things. But so doing your due diligence, but yeah, it would cost a lot for them to move up. Even if he's not number 1, he'll be top 3. So it's going to cost a fortune. I know we talked and you brought up the potential of moving up to go get Travis Hunter, which would also cost a lot similarly. But that's a guy that gives you some flexibility at the position. But it also tells me, Miami does have a lot of talented players in this draft. One position that we've talked about with the Rams, and this wouldn't be for the first round, but Elijah Arroyo is a really good tight end out of Miami that the Rams could potentially get in those mid rounds. So obviously other players they'll look at, but anytime the number 1 overall pick is in attendance and it's the QB, that's what's going to be the focus. I remember being at USC's Pro Day last year, and Caleb Williams, everyone knew was going number 1 overall to the Bears, and there was no even talk of the Bears trading. Not much anyway. And so, but there was teams almost every team was there just to go see. And obviously there were other players, but, like for instance, Minnesota, I remember had their quarterback coach there. So they were literally there to watch Caleb Williams, just to do your due diligence. And they were less outside the realm of the possibility. They were at 11, not 26, but I don't know. Interesting. Like you said, the interesting thing is they just don't travel. So the fact that they made the 3,000-mile flight from LA to Miami, there's definitely going to be some interest there.
Yeah, maybe they just wanted to check out Miami Beach again, get a little on vacation on Stan Crocky's dime. I don't know. We'll see,
Yeah.
but it's fun season, and you think about the trading up thing, and it's always crazy until it happens, and we've talked about it with Patrick Mahomes. Nobody's talking about, well, he's good, but they traded up for him.
Yeah.
Everybody's good with that. It would cost a lot, and I think probably people can see the worth in going after a guy like Ward more than my idea of going after Travis Hunter. But I'll say this: it's catching wind. People are starting to talk. This is an influential podcast we got here. People notice.
That's right. Even when they don't give credit, they do notice.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Where do you remember when the Rams traded up when they took Goff, but they traded up for one?
Like
Do you remember
when that occurred?
What was that?
When the trade up occurred?
No, I mean that too, I guess. But where they were, I think they were what, like 15?
Yeah. Just looked at that today because I was writing about them going. I believe it was 15 or 16.
Okay, so found it here. Yeah, they were selecting 15. They were one of the lowest picking teams in NFL history to trade up to number 1. So I'm pretty sure moving up from 26 would absolutely be the lowest picking team to ever move up to number 1. And in that trade, they gave up first round that year, 2 second-round picks that year, a third-round pick that year, and then a first round in 2017 and a third in 2017. So essentially 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. And they got back the first, obviously, and then a fourth and a sixth. So let me ask you this. Do you believe in Cam Ward?
There's definitely things about his game that I like, and I definitely can see why a guy like Sean McVay would want to go after him.
Yeah.
Pushing the ball down the field, adding in an extra ability, with his legs, which I think he's always wanted. I think he looks at Josh Allen as like his perfect quarterback.
Yeah.
So, there's an easy plays with, there's, he does need some time behind a quarterback. So it's kind of an ideal situation, but Tennessee going from 1 to 26, let's say they're the team that first rounder, that's a big jump from from 1 to 26. So they really have to sweeten that deal. They don't have a second rounder. There's all sorts of reasons why this shouldn't work. But, I've been saying it for probably close to 6 months now, maybe longer than that. They don't have a plan. The Rams don't have a plan at quarterback right now.
Yeah.
So I would like to see a succession plan sooner than later. And we think they're going to draft a quarterback at some point. This would be mind blowing.
Yeah, it really would. It really would. It's always crazy to me how not just quarterbacks, I guess, players, but we'll just talk quarterback because they're the most well known, but how their trajectory can change so quickly. And it's funny, you look at some quarterbacks and it's like they've been decided since they were like freshmen or sophomores that they're going to be like the guy and be a top 5 pick. And then there's some guys that kind of just come out of nowhere. Like Caleb Williams, since he was a freshman, was like, this guy's going to be the next number 1 overall pick. He was. Trevor Lawrence guy, since he was in high school, like this guy's the next Peyton Manning. Like he's going to be, the number 1 overall pick. He was. Then you have guys like Jaden Daniels 2 years ago, still at Arizona State. He's like a talented kid, but not even on the radar of anyone. Transfers to LSU, wins the Heisman. He becomes the 2nd overall pick and, has a fantastic rookie year. And now Cam Ward played at Washington State 2 years ago. Washington State had a decent season. He had some good games. There was fun in the Apple Cup between him and Michael Penix Jr. He showed some good grit. But if he would have gone to the draft that year, which the thought was he was going to, he was like a projected 5th round pick. Then he transfers to Miami, has the year he has last year. Now he's the number 1 overall pick. It's just crazy always how that can change. And I mean, that's college. Obviously, these are young guys that are, still learning and grooming and stuff. But it's like, that's just a huge jump. I mean, literally he would have been a 5th or 6th round pick. Now he's number 1 overall.
Wow, that's wild.
Crazy, right?
I didn't realize that was his trajectory, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Like he
mean,
was
like people were responding to my Travis Hunter idea with like, well, they just need to wait till next year and then trade up for some of
yeah, you
these
can't do
other
that.
guys, and it's like you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these guys really come out of the woodwork, like you're saying.
Yeah, you can't bank on that, and you can never plan for injury, and like who knows? What if and the opposite can happen too, right? Like Quinn Ewers, he was seen as like the next big quarterback. The Rams could get him. He's a mid round guy, and he was projected to be like the next number one overall QB for sure.
Yeah.
So
Spencer Rattler was in that conversation for a while
Spencer
too.
Rattler. So when you look at the next year's QB class, those guys could all fall off, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
like, damn, we waited, and like there's not even a QB we should take in the first round, let alone trade up. Like, man, we should have done it last year. And everyone's calling this a weak QB class, but you can't plan for the next draft class. Like you just can't. You can get lucky. Things can happen. I'm not saying it doesn't work out sometimes, but you can't plan for that. Because just so much goes on in college football and sports and life, everything. So wild. That's why I love the draft. And so let's talk now the position. Well, I know we talked kind of first round scenarios a few episodes ago, but we're going to specifically hone in on corner. As the roster sits right now, like, is that the position you want them to target in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the roster, not just this year, but kind of going forward too, they've got some big questions to answer there. You've got Darius Williams, who's turned 33, 2 years left on his deal. You've got three guys on the last year of their rookie contracts: Quentin Lake, Darian Kendrick, and Kobe Durant, all kind of meeting the end of their deals there. And then you got a couple of undrafted guys from last year that they relied on a whole lot. But I'm still not convinced that they're kind of the future of the position, and they really haven't invested in it through the draft, or with just trades or in free agency in a long time since Jalen Ramsey. He was really the last big investment there. And you just look at the defense across the board, and they've got the defensive line just locked down nice and tight. And all of those guys are on their rookie contracts for the foreseeable future. So it's the one that makes the most sense. And, looking at the mock drafts, it seems like everybody's starting to trend that way. They're doing a lot of wide receivers when the Cooper Kupp thing was happening. Not a lot of tight end talk for some reason. There's some of that, but it seems like everybody's now starting to realize it's like, oh, they've got a big need at this position. So it's, it's time for an investment, and the defense is so close to being really great that I think that the right pick at this position, using a first rounder especially, is a smart way to go.
Yeah. And we've seen, like, not saying they're going to get this level of talent, but, strong cornerback play, when you have a true lockdown, like, it can really aid the entire defense because you kind of have that, whole side of the field taken care of. You think of like Pat Surtain with the Broncos, or you can even just go with the Rams when Jalen Ramsey was here in his prime. And again, I'm not saying they're going to get a guy at 26 to that caliber, but they haven't had that since, like you said. They've had, like, dudes that can play, some young talent. I think schematically they've done things really well. But I think it's been very clear that linebacker and corner have been the weaknesses kind of since the Super Bowl run. And so this is an opportunity in the first round, I think, to do that. So, when you look at who would be available, it's all over the place. Like, there's not some, like, going back to Pat Surtain, like, he was a lock top 15 pick, like lock, no matter what. I think he ended up going 9, and he only went 9 because there was like a lot of quarterbacks in that draft class, or a decent amount. So I don't think, from what I've seen so far in the draft, not just mock drafts, but just what I've seen in my evaluation, that there's like that corner that is like, he's going to be gone in the first 10 picks. They're all over the place. Like, we've seen Jahdae Barron go 10. We've seen him go 26 to the Ram in mocks. We've seen Will Johnson from Michigan go 12. We've seen him go 25, 26, 27. So it's all kind of over the place. What are you kind of evaluating? Like, do you think the Rams kind of have a shot at any of the corners available?
Well, Travis Hunter off the board, probably in the first 5. So after that, I would say, and this is an interesting thing that Les Snead touched on recently. He was on somebody's show. Was he on McAfee recently? I don't remember who he was talking to.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
But he was talking about last year how the Rams benefited when they were picking at 19 because there were so many quarterbacks that went ahead of them. It really pushed the talent to reach them, so that they were happy that Jared Verse fell to them. After not unsuccessfully trying to get Brock Bowers, they were really happy that they have this talent just fall in their lap. That's not going to be the case this year. There's a lot of meat and potatoes guys that are going to go in between 1 and 26. There's also a lot of skill position players that are going to go between 1 and 26. Not a lot of quarterbacks. So, it's tough to say because there's been a bit of a drought at the position, kind of, behind the number one guy. So Sauce, Gardner, Derek Stingley. You look at the wide receivers as a comparison, and there's been 3 great receivers, and it seems like in every draft for the last 10 years almost. Mm-hmm. It seems like, and that hasn't been the case for cornerbacks. So there's going to be a lot of teams that I think are going to be kind of looking at these guys, pretty closely. So
yeah,
I can't really look in my crystal ball and go like, yep, it's a clear picture of how this draft is going to fall out. And it's because of the quarterback thing. And it's just weird. It's like especially for cornerbacks where, Dane Brugler's got Trey Amos at 94 and other people are putting him in the first round. It's a tough one to kind of suss out. And it's a tough position, I think, to scout. I think it's one of the toughest positions to scout because there's such a high failure rate and there's such a high variance rate because they're reacting. There's not a lot of proactive, unless you're man coverage a lot. There's not a lot of proactivity for the position. So I don't know. Do you have any clarity on it?
No, I think it's a great point. What you said in the beginning there is, last year, 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first 13 picks or whatever it was, 12 picks. I mean, this year, I think at most you have 3 go before the Rams pick at 26, and that's if a team falls in love with Jackson Dart. Most likely just 2 potentially going, unless things crazy happen and then Milrose sneaks into the first round and you have 4 go. But I think you're looking more like 2, maybe 3. So, like you're saying, that's a lot of the top tier talent's going to get taken, whereas last year it all got pushed back. I mean, there wasn't a defensive player taken until the Colts took Latu 15th overall. That's not going to happen this year. Like, you're going to have a lot of defensive players go early. And so if the Rams are going to stick with defense and particularly the corner, yeah, there's going to be some top guys gone. The question is, how do you evaluate those? Like you said, some have, there's not a single, like, outside of Travis Hunter, which for some reason I always still view him as a receiver more than a corner, but he is, depending what you view, he's great at both. So, but outside of him, there's not like a clear cut true corner. It's like CB1, like there has been in years past. So, it'll be interesting to see who does kind of end up there, because I'll just say this, like the way I've seen most mocks go lately, which again, mocks mean nothing, but typically it seems like Jahdae Barron and Will Johnson get taken before the Rams, which would leave them the idea of Trey Amos or Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. And after that, you probably aren't taking one in the first round. Your thoughts on that?
The only other guy I'd throw in there is, and I'm gonna butcher his first name, I'm sure, but Azari Thomas out of Florida State.
Florida State, yeah.
A guy that kind of has fallen away is Siobhan Revell, East Carolina. He was talked up, and I mean, I think he was probably one of the first mock drafts I saw was like him going to the Rams at 26. So I don't know. Do you know what happened with him? Did you bad the combine or anything like that?
I didn't hear any. I wonder if he's a guy that didn't follow it. Obviously, I saw those in the early mocks, but I don't know if maybe he just didn't have the best testing numbers, and that's why, or just the fact that he played at a smaller program, the East Carolina Pirates. That maybe that's falling off, not going up against like the top tier receivers or whatnot. But I mean, he had an 84 overall grade in 2024. Coverage grade 85.5. So certainly a good coverage corner. That if you want a guy to kind of be that lockdown corner, put on an island, he showed the ability against the competition he was given. So we'll see what it looks like at the NFL level. But he's one that, as of now, like I want to dive more into some film study with him. I haven't watched him a ton, but as of now, just the measurables and whatnot, like I think he's worthy of a first rounder. What's hard is so many people, us included, is you look at different draft boards or mock drafts, and they have whoever created it, whether it's PFF, Draft Network, Pro Football Network, Dane Brugler, The Athletic, any of these, they all kind of have these evaluations, and you say like, well, PFF has them rated as like the 42nd best player. Like, you're going to reach and take him at 26. Like, what are you thinking? Like, well, it's not how NFL teams think. Like, they're not looking at PFF's mock draft board and being like, oh, they have him 42. We can't take him in the first round. So if he fits what you're looking for, if he fits the build and he showed you enough, like, then yeah, you go get him and get it done. So he's a name. Like, I think Amos would be my number one choice there. If Barron and Will Johnson's my number one corner personally. I'll just say, well, let me just ask you that. Who's your number one corner?
Yeah. After
not
Hunter,
including Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it's Will Johnson 100%, just because of, a combination of amount of playing time, the size that he brings, 6'2", 200 pounds, comfortable in both press and off coverage, athlete. He's got a little bit of an injury history from the last season, but I think this is what the Rams have been missing since Jalen Ramsey has gone, is just a true big outside corner who can kind of do it all out there. So that's why I like him, because it's a good fit, and he's just quintessential body type, good length, good size, and can body up to guys. I mean, you're talking Darius Williams, he's 5'8",
Yeah.
He's good on the outside. Oddly enough, that's where he prefers to be rather than being in the slot. But yeah, what's your sense on him?
Yeah, I think he's showed a lot of great promise in college, and what's so funny is this is why it's so subjective, that like his overall coverage grade PFF is 76.8, so lesser than that than of Ravel out of East Carolina. But when you look at the competition going up against Texas and USC and Washington and some of these other premier passing schools, he had a pick 6 in that USC game, I remember. So I think the size, the intangibles, the helmet. I know everyone always says like, don't draft the helmet, draft the player. But I think there's something to said about playing for a premier program against premier talent, and that's not taking anything away from Ravel and East Carolina, but it does up the stakes a little bit when who you're going up against. So yeah, I'm a big Will Johnson guy. Obviously, the injuries are a concern that he missed a lot of time last year with, and I think by the end of the season, it was more, in my opinion, it was more like just preventative. Like Michigan was basically out of any serious contention there, and so it was just like, all right, his eyes are on the draft. Like, why come back and play for a 6-win team? Put your body in harm's way. So I don't think it's as serious as maybe the amount of time he missed is all I'm trying to get at. So yeah. If Will Johnson's there, which again, it's all over the place. I've seen him go as high as 11. I've seen him go available with the Rams. So that's why this position particularly, I think it's a good year for the Rams to be in need of a cornerback, because I think it's a deep position. It may be a little top heavy, but it's deep. But it's also like, you just have no idea. Like, there's been so many other years where it's like, okay, these 3 guys, they're gone this early. But yeah, we just don't know. But if Will Johnson's there, love that pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's your next guy?
I mean, honestly, I think Amos. I know Jahdae Barron is kind of the consensus there. For me, he seemed a little inconsistent at Texas at times. And so I just kind of like what Amos was able to do at Ole Miss. And another, coverage grade, 85.6. So fantastic coverage grade. His run defense grade, 81. So overall, I think a really true complementary corner that can cover, but also good against the run, a good tackler. How many times do we see corners that are good, but just bad in space in terms of tackling? And, playing in the SEC and whatnot. Obviously, Barron did as well. But yeah, I think Amos for me. What about you?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I like his feistiness. I think he's probably, he's 190, so he's in that range that I like. He's about 6 feet tall as well, so he's definitely in the size range that I want for the Rams. I wonder about consistency with him a bit, but feistier than strong, I guess I would put him in. And I like that. I like that in the cornerback because you don't necessarily need to wrestle AJ Brown every down you're on him, but you got to be able to compete with him. And although he's not going to body him up necessarily with the 30-pound weight difference, he can hang with him. He's the guy that's gonna and like that kind of thing is like a bounce back as well. It's like I get in a little trouble for defending Darian Kendrick, but he comes back. He comes back after every rep, good or bad. So, and he's got that dog in him, I think.
Yeah. So do you have Amos CB2 or do you put Barron ahead of him or someone else altogether?
Well, I think I like Thomas more.
Okay.
Isaiah Thomas.
A period Thomas from Florida State.
Yeah. AZ Thomas. Disruptive and lengthy and wiry and good size athlete. And
you just want the Rams to be the Los Angeles Seminoles. That's all you want. Just keep adding Florida State talent over here.
Hey, it worked last year, getting two of them. Add one more guy in there. Maybe some interesting packages up by the line of scrimmage. But I don't know. I don't know what I have against Jahdae Barron. Honestly, super smart guy. An inch shorter than 6 feet. I mean, can I hold that against him? Maybe I am. I don't know. But great zone coverage guy, and that's kind of where the Rams live. So I'm not mad at it. But he's a cerebral player.
You're talking about Barron now or Thomas still?
Yeah, Jahdae Barron. Yeah, I've moved over to him. I don't know. Talk me into him.
Same, dude. I'm kind of up and down on him. Like, obviously, overall, 91.1 coverage grade. And again, I keep bringing up grades. It's not everything, but one of the top coverage grades in this class, which is why PFF obviously has him ranked, I believe, as their CB1 because of that overall coverage grade and his overall grade of 90.7, 83.4 in run defense. So a good tackler as well. I thought he was just a little up and down in big games, a little up and down. Against Oklahoma, decent against Georgia, not really good against Ohio State. Had some struggles in like the stretch of Kentucky and A&M. So Arizona State was kind of an up and down game, but that was such a weird game because Arizona was just kind of like running the whole game with Cam Scatabo and then would throw a few Herculean ones up and kind of convert. So that was just kind of a weird vibe of a game anyway, especially for a cornerback. So I would not by any means be upset if he falls to 26th and the Rams can take him. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad pick by any means. For me, all things being equal, if they're picking wherever they need to pick to get any of them, I would just go Johnson, then Amos, and then Barron probably. But again, a lot of these corners I haven't watched like a ton of film on. So I want to get more into, but from what I have seen, that's just kind of how I would rank them. But I do like Barron. And he seems to be climbing boards as of late. Like, I feel like a month ago before the combine, he was like seen as a good corner, first round corner still. And now it seems like a lot more consistent that he's like kind of CB1 in a way. Again, after Travis Henry, but who I think was it Daniel Jeremiah that had him mocked to the Rams at 26.
Oh, is that right?
Someone did.
At a certain point, it's like, I was saying this in a different show. It's like the Rams are in a weird spot for the positions they need, where they either, it does feel like they have to trade up or they can trade back and still land one of these guys. I don't know if that's true for Barron anymore. I mean, sub 4.4 speed at the combine. That's not something that's going to drive what the Rams want to do with him, but pretty high up there in kind of the athletic scores. You want to be able to drop a guy in there in year one. I mean, really, and that would be a question I had if he's ready for that. Now, I mean, he's a nickel guy, and I kind of, when I was looking at like free agents, I was looking at Nate Hobbs as like a dedicated nickel corner for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And, with Darius Williams on the outside for the next 2 years, let's say, that's still advantageous. And maybe my desire for a true outside cornerback has really jaded me on Jade.
That's fair. Yeah, I think for me, if the Rams don't trade up, if they sit at 26, and if Will Johnson is gone, and then I know we're not talking other positions, but if neither of the top two tight ends are there, so Love, obviously Tyler Warren will be gone for sure, but if Colston Loveland's gone as well, then I'm trading back.
Yeah, I think
so. If Johnson's there, I'm taking him at 26. No doubt about it. If Loveland's there, I might take Loveland over Johnson, just get that true tight end that I think McVay's been wanting. But if neither of those two are there, and obviously there's the Jihad Campbell linebacker, I think he'll be gone. If he was there, that's another one we could throw in there, but I think he's like the number one linebacker. He'll be gone. So then I'm trading back, getting a second round pick, which they don't have. And then you can take potentially a Ravel, an Amos, a Thomas in the second round. That's what I would like.
Yeah, a lot of the mocks I've seen have them trading back even within the first round, so moving back to like somewhere in the 31, 30 range, 32. And that's where I've seen like Thomas going. And then this guy Hairston, who has a 4.28 40-yard dash, which is fast, which is blazing speed. That was a mock that came out today from The Athletic from a writer whose name is... Oh, that's not the right one. Whose name is Ben Standig. He has him taking Harrison there at 30. And it's so funny with the mock drafters, especially the kind of the real national ones. They just kind of throw all their explanations for the reasons they pick guys for the Rams are always very much like, well, he's got traits.
yeah, he's a ball player.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Nice analysis there. Yeah,
they'll figure out the rest.
Yeah. He had a bit of a down year compared to his 2023 campaign.
Is that right?
In terms of coverage grade or not, but I think there's to that point, not to make it funny, but he does have, I think, traits that teams will see translating. But he definitely struggled a little bit, which is why if he built on his 23 campaign, he would probably be he'd be like a first round lock. Now it's like that fringe first, second rounder. Which in reality, again, we think it's funny the national guys do this, but in reality, that is like what the Rams look for, like a guy that kind of flew under the radar, has traits, but didn't really utilize them in college. So he's not going to be a top 15 pick, and they can get him in the back half or the second round and then capitalize that. And everyone's like, where the hell did this guy come from? Like, where was this guy in college? How is he so good all of a sudden? So maybe that is the pick. Maybe it is Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky.
Yeah, we should look at his, I don't know if he went to the Senior Bowl or not, but look at some of that because if you can see that miles per hour and those, they track like dramatic slowing and slowing down and acceleration as well. Kind of.
Wow.
So that would probably be the interesting thing to see for a guy like him, especially. But another feisty guy too. Smaller in stature, but we'll fight for it. It seems like. Are there any guys that you would be willing to trade further back in the second round and snag? Because this
further back.
And the only reason I bring it up because I want to talk about Benjamin Harrison.
I was going to say him because I'm like, all right, Golden Domer. I'm sure Skinny wants to go ahead and talk about him while if I see anyone else that I like.
Yeah, he's a leader, which you guys should know by now. It's like one of the things I love. I played a lot of football for the Irish. And then just in terms of traits, like, foot quickness, his eyes are great, body fluidity, great on the mirror. But medicals are critical for him. He's not the most athletic guy, more of a cerebral type. But I think that, offers some, potential for safety kind of versatility as well, which is something that they've always, in the past anyway, have really, really liked, but may not like it at first or second round grade. But, thinking kind of in that idea of replacing Quentin Lake if they decide they don't want to re-sign him past his rookie contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he would be a good one. One that I'll throw out there just because it's local talent. This would, I don't really know where he's going to go. Like I've seen some kind of rumors like late second, early third. I've seen others like as low as like fifth. So the jury's really out on where his draft value is. But Jalen Smith out of USC, I covered extensively, got to meet a bunch. He's a great kid. And his, if we're talking about guys that had traits that maybe didn't live up to the like where they talent level would be in college and the Rams can get out of them, Smith was kind of I wouldn't say opposite. The dude has traits, but his like improvement from 2023 to 2024 was remarkable, going from, the Alex Grinch system that obviously was a horrible defense with USC, and then getting with Anthony Lynn and those guys last year and became a cornerstone of the defense that had one of the biggest defensive turnarounds in college football and was just a absolute sure tackler, great in coverage, team leader. And so I think the intangibles are all there, but also just the improvement. You can be like, whoa, look at how, when used correctly, this guy can do it all. And he had, an 82.5 coverage grade. That's an upgrade from a 67 in 23. So a huge dramatic improvement there in just one season. So you kind of think like, well, what can we do with him in that regard? So I'm not sure where he would go. Obviously, I think you would, to your question, like, could you trade back even further or just wait? I think definitely in that third and fourth round, it could be potential for there. I'd love to see it. Anytime you can keep a Trojan home, I'm all for it.
Did they end up drafting a Trojan last year or just adding D-Ditch?
Yeah, I think they just added D-Ditch as a UDFA.
Yeah, it's incredible. They have not drafted from USC in like over 20 years, I think.
Yeah. Who'd you say it was? McDonald or something was the last one?
Yeah.
Back in their St. Louis days, I think.
Good memory. Definitely St. Louis days for sure. But
which is insane. The Chargers have taken quite a few Trojans. They take one almost every year, but did again last year. They took Brandon Rice last year. They took Tui Pelotu the year before that. But yeah, the Rams, for whatever reason, and McVay and Lincoln Riley are homies. Like, come on, Rammies, you got to take a Trojan this year.
You got Eric Henderson over there coaching the D line too.
And so. Henny. Yeah, you got Henny. Got to do it. So hopefully I would love Jalen Smith. We're talking corners. But I think Woody Marks is another way. I know the Rams are going to add a running back at some point just to add to that backfield. Woody Marks, and we'll talk running backs and stuff later, but he would be a perfect fit for the Rams offense for what skill set he has.
Yeah, he seems like a battering ram in the vein of a Blake Corum and a Kyron Williams. Maybe a bit more upside too. Maybe a little bit more explosivity as well.
Totally. Well, and he went like 56 straight games with a reception. So he's great catching the ball in the backfield, which obviously this offense wants to do.
Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started.
Anything else to add on corners? Or should we wrap this up?
No, I think that's good.
Beautiful. So, well, let us know, guys, what you think. Do you want the Rams to take a corner? Do you want a different position in the first? We're going to kind of go through different positions, different rounds leading up 1 month till the draft. Keep you all covered here on everything Rams. So if you have not already, please hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Rams LAFB is the YouTube channel. Really easy to find. If you prefer audio or just want to also follow us on Apple and Spotify, Rams Skinny is where you can find us, and all of our Rams coverage and all of our Los Angeles sports coverage is at LAFBnetwork.com. At LAFB Network is all the socials. That's Skinny T. I'm Ryan Dowd. Everyone have a great start to your week. Talk to you all in just a couple days.